Josey running left, cuts it back right, gets a breakaway.
Still running, James Franklin, steady, on his feet, touchdown!
To the 20, to the 10, to the house! Henry Josey.
Franklin takes off, and it's a touchdown for Missouri. It's Mizzou, folks. They'll play next week for an SEC championship.
It is Mizzou True Sons. It is the third week of this. Everyone keeps showing up, so we just keep doing shows. Guys, how's it going, man? How's everything been going for you guys this week? We have lost audio. James, can you...
Yeah,
James,
Henry, sorry, man. Didn't hear a thing you said.
Oh, man.
Oh, well, there we go. Okay. So, how's everything going, everybody? Good? Everybody doing good?
Absolutely awesome. I didn't know there was a mute button on this little mic. So
yeah,
a whole bunch of new things.
Sorry, James muted you there. I shouldn't allow. Well, guys, we're knee deep into football season. Things are off and running. I'm actually leaving for Boston in the morning. Going to be there covering the game here. This is a crazy deal going to the Northeast to play a football game. As Coach Eli Drinkwitz said, not a lot of players Missouri has ever signed from the great state of Massachusetts. So I don't think he's too keen on playing this game. I mean, going on the road, playing like this, I think the only thing that could you maybe relate to this for you guys was that 2011 game we talked about last week at Arizona State. It's kind of a strange game, isn't it, going kind of this far away early in the non-conference season?
Yeah, I think it's great, though. Go ahead, James. You're the man.
No. Please finish.
Well, yeah, I think it's great. I think that game there is like we talked about in the past show. That game molded us as a team. I think that was the one game that elevated us for the rest of that year and really brought us together. And we knew that we can compete with a lot of people, let alone I was just thinking about that, James, that super huge plane that we flew in over there. That was unbelievable. So that even made the hype even more hype for us as we were traveling back and forth to Arizona.
That's what,
James,
going there. It's a good trip, and being on a plane, and especially you're from 18 to 21 years old. Even if you're 30 or 40 years old, I mean, being on a plane like that, going to a place where most of those guys probably have never been, new atmosphere, and it's definitely exciting. And hopefully they don't necessarily get too distracted by it. But I mean, you got to enjoy yourself when you go and do stuff like that.
Well, Missouri comes in as the 128th out of 128 ranked defenses against the run. That's been problematic, of course, against Kentucky, and then in the second half against SEMO, a game that was never in doubt. But when you give up, 28 points and 300 yards rushing, it's still a problem, even if it was kind of third and fourth string players. But that's what Boston College likes to do. They run the ball. They have a backup quarterback. It's going to be a healthy dose of running the ball. When you go on the road and do this, is it a breaking of your schedule? What about something like this, James, might create like the most challenge for going and playing? Is it the schedule? Is it just the environment? Is it the plane, the travel, like kind of everything put together?
Yeah, it depends on, the players. Everyone is obviously affected differently, but I think the main factor is, it's a long travel. It's a new place, and you get really excited. And I think one of the issues might be some of the time, because they're leaving a little bit earlier. And so it's like that time that you have to think before the game. Sometimes you put a little bit too much pressure on yourselves. Because at the end of the day, you're out there, you got a split second or so to make decisions when you're on the field. But leading up to it, you make it into this huge thing where, a 5-yard run's a 5-yard run, a tackle's a tackle, a 20-yard pass, 20-yard pass. And leading up to that, though, you typically can think, okay, man, this is a huge game. There's a great running game, or maybe we've been struggling on defense, and you start to overanalyze and overthink things. And I think that's probably one of the biggest things that can keep guys from performing not to their best, but performing well. It's just kind of overanalyzing it.
Henry, since James wouldn't know this because we know how straight-laced he is, I've just heard rumors that Sun Devil Stadium, Tempe, Arizona State is there might be a few places to party down there. You guys played there in a road game. You guys played there in a bowl game. Can we confirm or deny this?
We can semi-confirm. Bowl game, yeah, you confirm a little more, but yeah, the way we travel during season, you don't have time to confirm anything with the hotel that you're staying in.
So I guess that we just might as well get into this. 2010 season kind of ties into this. I think it was TJ Moe that kind of threw some guys under the bus for that Insight Bowl loss, right? For that game. So Henry and James, I'm assuming you were not a part of that group. See, clearly,
James,
we're
not a part of it. So we weren't even old enough to go out and do anything. So
as if that matters.
That was the biggest issue for us. But now, I mean, you can like bowl week is bowl week. You know you're gonna have fun. You know you're gonna go out. It's the part of refocusing and just buying into the team. Like you got 2 days maybe to go out and have some fun, hang out with the guys, go out and see something different, and like it's different scenery. So everybody's gonna eventually go out, but it's just honing back in on what you're there for, and that's getting those practices in, and then buying into what's actually going on. You got to play a big game, so you can say that caused it, but at the end of the day, we lost the game because we lost the game. It wasn't anybody going out and made them play different. Because I could say guys go out up to like any other week. So what's the difference in them going out in Arizona and then not going out in Columbia? So that doesn't play a role into it.
Well, I still say TJ Moe's catch should not have been overturned in that game, and that would have been a Mizzou victory there in the Insight Bowl. But since that, kind of leads into the 2010 season, that was your guys' freshman year at the University of Missouri. You come in together in the 2010 recruiting class, which, by the way, was the highest ranked recruiting class in school history.
The best class that was recruited.
21st ranked by Rivals.com. We're going to throw some business Gabe Yarman's way over at Power Mizzou. They do a great job, and you guys were both a part of that class. So we kind of want to get into your guys' stories being recruited. Both Texas players. Missouri had such a stronghold in the state of Texas. And was so Andy Hill was the lead recruiter in Missouri. Was Cole the main guy in Texas then? Who was the main Texas recruiter at that time? Was it Cole Gowski?
No, Cole was who recruited me. Yeah.
Oh,
Cole
yeah.
Gowski got me, yeah.
So you guys had two separate, okay, Walker and Cole Gowski.
Ones, yeah.
You guys both come from, Texas high schools that, I think in that class, there was over half the class came from the state of Texas. In fact, I want to run through some names for you. As far as guys that came from that class, you guys will remember all these guys, I'm sure. Maybe a few you won't because there's a few surprises, right? Okay, we remember Matt Hoke, Bud Sasser, Marcus Lucas, Daniel Easterly. I had to think about that one. James, we're going to get into this one in a little bit. Tyler Gabbard, Marcus Murphy, Karanti Walker, Darvin Ruiz, love that guy. Coney Ely, Eric Waters, Hugh Henry, of course, Nick Demian, Greg White, Anthony Gotti, Xavier Smith, EJ Gaines, Tristan Holt. Yeah. There's one of those 4-star corners from Texas. I think he was from Gilmer or Koppel that didn't pan out.
Gilmore.
Braylon Webb, Jimmy Hunt, Mitch Morris, who's still making millions of dollars for the Buffalo Bills. Lucas Vincent, good friend of ours, and of course Frank the Tank. James. I was thinking Frank the Tank, like from old school. James the Tank Franklin, who's with us right now. So guys, when you hear those names, you think about that recruiting class. What a wonderful recruiting class, and what a coup for the school. It was really building something special at that point.
Yeah, that's what was pretty cool. I mean, it just seems so different now. I mean, you look at some of the recruiting classes and even some of the college athletes, and it's just like they just seem so young. Like they don't seem like whenever we were getting recruited, we seem so old and mature. And but it's pretty awesome. I mean, a lot of those guys, and you said it, and I just remember different stories from each of them. And I mean, not only was it their talent there, but everyone got along pretty well. And even what was funny is even the guys, there's a few guys that didn't, or like just didn't have like personalities that meshed really well. But yet, even though they had their moments, it was like it brought us closer together because it's like something that we could all talk about and joke about. So coincidentally, some guys didn't get along, but then we got along better because some guys didn't get along. It was a pretty good recruiting class.
Indeed was. Henry, you come in, I believe in 2009. This is the year that, following, Derek Washington had been the guy. Daddy, come on. You didn't get pets put on. 2009, Derek Washington's kind of the guy, and then he's gone from the program. And you've got Kendall Lawrence, Kendall Lawrence, as James Franklin would say, and Devin Moore kind of as the stalwarts in the running back room. You come in kind of with Marcus Murphy and Greg White, who became a running back. I think he was recruited as an athlete, but talk about kind of coming in and what those guys were like to kind of learn from and work with. And that running back room, man, that's a salty group right there. A lot of talent right there.
Yeah, it was. You said the right word, salty. We were a bunch of characters in that room. All got along, all had our little thing that we were good at that moment. We were Derek, of course, leading the run for us, and he was just somebody good to look up to and watch how he had his work ethic going as we first got there. Let alone not thinking that me or Murph thinking we're gonna play that first year, because like there's no way, like we're touching the ball. Look at this dude, like he was killing it in practice. It was embarrassing. And then you got followed up behind him. You got Kendall over there doing the same thing. I was like, yeah, we might not play for like 2 or 3 years now. It was something to walk into and just see like so much talent, to see those two there feed off of each other and be workhorses. So it definitely elevated us to get our stuff together real quick. And luckily we did get it together real quick because we had to actually show up and play as well. So it panned out pretty well. And then Coach Jones, as funny as a character as he was as a running back coach, my gosh, we had some moments. He was always very thorough, made sure we knew our game plan well. And he was a good guy. He used to tell some great jokes too at times. I don't even remember, but I can just remember his laugh, and it just be so loud and dominant. You hear it down the hallway like easily. So it was awesome. It was an awesome running back room.
Well, it's one thing to come in with a stable of running backs. James, you come in with another 4-star quarterback from St. Louis. Tyler Gabbard comes in. Blaine Gabbard's the starting quarterback in 2009 and 2010. Was there, I mean, as I understand it, Missouri was one of the only schools that really was wanted to bring you in as a quarterback. Texas and Oklahoma, maybe you were thinking as an athlete, some other position, but Missouri is on this quarterback thing, but you got another quarterback to compete with. What was that like for you coming in?
Yeah, it was, it wasn't, I found, I guess I learned early on, there's a way to go about trying to compete to win the position. And in my opinion, it takes a skill in itself as far as like, when there's a guy who's a starter, and you're trying to compete, or two guys that are going at it, because at the end of the day, the coach makes the decision. And so a lot of times though, players can have kind of some animosity or jealousy or frustration towards each other. If one guy's getting to play over the other, one guy gets to start. And so I just tried to approach it pretty much like everything else, just open mind, respectful, not make it it was a competition, but not just be like, I'm not going to talk to him because we're competing. I'm not going to help him out or anything like that. So how I saw it was, that's what I tried to go about it, but it wasn't always reciprocated that way. So, but I mean, it was a learning process for me.
He had that I own it walk. That guy was a beast.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because what a switch back to you guys coming in. So James Franklin is a 4-star quarterback, a dual threat quarterback out of Lake Dallas area in Texas, Corinth. And I just did some digging and was able to, I don't know how I found this, but we got his recruiting profile picture here from rivals.com. And I don't know, we might have another career for James here.
Moly.
But
is that guy?
The stars say it all, guys. One of the top players in the state of Texas, 4-star recruit there, dual threat, 6'2", 218. I think you were playing more at 225. I think 218 wasn't giving you enough credit, man. You had the size. Sure. And so just take us through kind of the process. When did Mizzou kind of become a part of the picture for you? Because Missouri had such a stronghold in the state of Texas, but you got Texas, you got Oklahoma, and they're after you. And so if that's the case, you've obviously got, the Baylors and Tex and a lot of schools in Texas, man. So how did Mizzou become part of the picture for you?
Well, I started out playing receiver and defensive end, and I always complained. I wanted to play quarterback. They never let me. So finally, my sophomore year, they let me play some, my freshman year, because the guy that was quarterback was even terrible. So I did get a couple games. So they're like, all right, you can be the backup on varsity, but you'll start at receiver and defensive end. And so I did that. And so after my sophomore year, my first offer was from Texas, but most of my offers, I had like 30 something, but they were almost all for athlete. And I wanted to play quarterback. And so when I played my junior year, switched over. After that junior year is when Missouri offered me, and I got some other offers too. But again, I was really focused on wanting to play quarterback, and it's pretty simple. I mean, I didn't want to get caught away. I was thankful my parents gave me some good advice, and also I think just from what I've seen from either other teammates or other guys that were big recruits, everybody wants to go to the big schools like Alabama, but then a lot of them, because there's like true freshmen or redshirt freshmen playing, the only way that they're going to play is if that guy goes pro his junior year, or they're not going to play but 1 year, so they're going to sit for 4 years, or 5 years, and then finally get to play maybe 1 year or part of a season because that guy finally goes pro or an injury. And it's tough when you're that young. You get carried away with how nice the facilities are, all the stuff that they woo you with when they come. And Henry, I know you can attest to this. We went to Mizzou on our visit, and it's like, oh, they brought all this delicious food catered. We had presentations up in the press box, ice cream, and they had like all these different girls that were like serving the food as if like that was like every single time. And then what's funny is the first day, so after we commit and sign, first day of summer training, the recruitment video plays, and in the first minute it says 87% of all recruiting is a lie. And it's like, it's too late though, because we've already signed, we're already there. But anyways, going back to Mizzou though, they had offered me after my junior year and I actually verbally committed, and so I stuck with it. And I got some other offers after that, but I really just wanted 4 main things at Mizzou. I wanted to be able to play quarterback, I wanted to be able to compete for my position, good education, and be able to go to church on Sundays. And so it was kind of really simple. And I know I had some quote unquote bigger schools offer me, but I just saw a great opportunity there, and I felt good about it, especially after that recruiting class. I mean, I know Henry was there too on one of those visits, and it was, I don't know, it was awesome. I just had a good connection, good relationship.
Henry, of course, Angleton, Texas. You're several hours south of James there, of course, coming from Lake Dallas. Some incredible football played there. I've been down to some Flower Mound Marcus games. I've been to some South Lake Carroll game. The football there is amazing. Talk about kind of your area, because I'm not as familiar with it, just kind of the level of competition there. And at your point, I'd always read you started out as a linebacker, switched to running back maybe as a junior, and amassed over 2,000 yards, 30 touchdowns there at Angleton High School. Let's talk about your high school experience and where Mizzou came on the radar for you.
Mizzou really came out of nowhere, but yes, I did play linebacker for the longest time. Hey, stop it. I played linebacker for the longest time. I was really good at linebacker too. Very weirdly, I was like I told you, like 130 pounds, probably soaking wet. Easily sliding through the line and making tackles. So I mean, I enjoyed playing linebacker for the longest, and then going into my junior year, that's when I kind of transitioned over to running back and corner. Get over here. Sorry, guys.
You're good.
But yeah, it was different. The changeover to running back and corner was really the big thing for me. I started getting more active in the covering role, and I didn't even think I was going to Mizzou to play running back. I didn't find out I was playing running back until I showed up there that day, and it's like, hey, he's going to play corner, you're going to play running back. It's like, all right, cool, whatever the case may be.
Was that was that EJ? EJ Gaines?
Yeah, okay. Me and EJ.
Yeah.
So yeah, we had talked about that for the longest. I was supposed to be you. It's like, yeah, we could have switched. It worked out either way for us.
Yeah.
But
I mean, 41, that's a good linebacker number, right?
Oh my gosh, this guy. The recruiting process was fairly easy for me. I knew I either wanted to stay home or I wanted to get far away. And as I talked more with my grandparents and everything, there was kind of leading towards more of you need to get away from here. The crazy part, I didn't even tell my grandparents I committed. I was actually ordering from my favorite place to eat back in the day, McDonald's, and made a phone call. I was like, hey, coach, I want to commit. And then that was it. So they literally got called like that night and was like, hey, congratulations to you. Like, she's like, what is, and then of course, my grandmother calls, like, what is going on? I was like, yeah, I just decided to commit. I've been thinking about it for a while, but I've been in the running to go to a lot of schools in Texas. I was practically at the University of Texas every weekend, either watching a game or trying to go to some camp during the summer. So I had no plans of going to Mizzou at all. And then I went visit there, and it was kind of the rest is history. It just, of course, they wooed me on the recruiting process, I guess you could say. But I actually, I enjoyed it. Man, it felt right when I went there to visit, and it felt right when I got home as well. And I talked about it with my grandparents. And after that, the rest was history. And it was some of the best days of my life, still to this day. So love me some Mizzou.
What was kind of your guys', starting with you, James, just like your opinion of Mizzou? Was it kind of one of those deals where it's like, hey, we're starting to see guys like Chase Daniel go up there, Sean Weatherspoon. Sean Weatherspoon went in a mall and saw a Mizzou hoodie and was like, I like that. Those are cool colors. I'll go there. He's a 2-star recruit at the time, Denario Alexander, the same thing. And so what was kind of your impression of Mizzou all the way down to Texas? Or obviously it had some success. Won the Big 12 North, a game away from the national title in 2007, but that's a couple of years before you guys are coming along. What was kind of your thoughts about the school, at that point in your high school career?
Well, to be transparent, I was a little bit of an oddball. So so after my Friday night game in high school, the next day on Saturday, I really wouldn't watch college football. I'd either play ping pong with my dad all day, or my buddy across the street would either play some video games, or I'd be doing some jump ropes or something. I kind of got bigger into it, but I'm not really like a big sports watcher. And so I'll watch it. I just won't go out of my way for it. And so when I had actually committed, I didn't even know who the current quarterback was. And so I went up there on my visit and met him. And so I didn't know anything about Mizzou history. I didn't look into that. I wasn't, that's why I say kind of like an oddball. Like I wasn't necessarily in tune with all of the former players, or it's like, oh, they have quarterbacks that, are starting to go pro or have this success, or they're a spread offense. I was really just looking for those 4 things I mentioned earlier, and kind of the rest from there. I wasn't necessarily worried about it. Not to sound arrogant, but I wasn't stressed about competition. And then anything else that was there, I'm like, hey, good players, they go to schools, and they're the ones that make the team play better, not necessarily because the best players, they don't necessarily go to the greatest schools, and then it just stays great. You have to have those players there, and then obviously the coaches and how it's run. And so I didn't really know much about Mizzou, except for that's where I wanted to go. And then after I committed and everyone would ask me questions like that, I'd say, I'm not sure. And I'd have to look some things up. And so it was a little bit different.
Henry, what about you? Same kind of deal? Or are you an avid college football watcher on Saturdays as a high schooler?
I watch football. Like I said, I'd be at either Texas almost every weekend watching the game, or we'd be somewhere.
McDonald's.
Like we just love to go watch football.
Yeah.
I love McDonald's. But I think going into that year, like after I committed and everything, I start watching Mizzou a little more and just started seeing the traditions and stuff, seeing the people that were there. Definitely helped out knowing that you had a lot of Texas guys there, and we did eventually come back to Texas and play some games. So that played a big role to it too, because that one thing you want to do is play in front of your family, and it was always good to come back home and play in front of the family. So that played a lot into it, and it made the decision a lot easier going into the long run. Like, hey, I will come home eventually, just not every weekend. So it worked out pretty good for us.
Well, I was remiss in that I forgot to we showed James's recruiting profile. I hadn't showed Henry's yet. So we got to get that up there. Now that is a look of confidence. That is someone confident and absolutely ready to come in. That's a linebacker stare. I will say that. That's a linebacker stare you had, Henry. So
that needs to be deleted.
You guys. So you arrive in Columbia, man. You guys are coming in here, as any college freshman, and you both see playing time. Missouri's coming off of, back-to-back SEC Big 12 North championships in 2007 and 2008. 09 was a little bit of a down year as Blaine Gabbard takes over, but you come in 2010, and I think you guys, you start 6-0. You have this big win against Oklahoma at home, a game in which James Franklin scored a rushing touchdown in. What was it? What was that season like for you guys as freshmen coming in? Did you expect to play as much as you did? I know Henry kind of alluded that you didn't, but Gary Pinkel is notorious for working his future starting quarterbacks into series, into games. I mean, so that was probably a given coming in.
Yeah, it was. I wasn't necessarily expecting to play, especially because so I got there in January, and so kind of saw how things were, and I knew Blaine was for sure the guy, and so I wasn't necessarily thinking I was going to play. I was trying to be ready to play. I look back now and see me as a freshman, and I just cringe. I'm like, oh, my mechanics, my footwork, it was just like, ooh. But that experience, I mean, kind of getting hit at that level and just seeing the speed of the game, because it helped out a lot, just getting a little bit of playing time and having a little bit of success. I think that transition and kept me motivated to make sure I'm staying on the right track and know what I needed to do.
Yeah,
Same.
for you, Henry, you're in there.
I wanted to play with James. That was the thing. So I knew I had to get my stuff together, man. He was the tank. But no, I had no clue I was going to play with the number 41 that year. I literally thought that jersey would stay hung up in the closet somewhere and just be afraid away that I would never have to wear it. But of course I did have to go out there with that 41, and my co-partner Murphy with the 43. We laughed all the way up to game day when we couldn't laugh anymore, that we're actually going to go out there and play in these numbers, and our families are going to know us as 41 and 43. Enjoyed every moment of it, but that was hard to make 41 look good. But we did our best, and we got the opportunity. I think we took full advantage of it, and we did the most with that opportunity, especially James, from me to Murphy to all the other guys that played their first year. It was good to see us show that our class is out there and able to be dominant, and there's a future for Mizzou with us having us play and starting off that first year together with the guys.
Yeah, man. They're Jake Kenny comes on and says, Henry Josey, man, one of my favorite Tigers of all time, the speed. And that is absolutely accurate. We love that. So for you guys, were you guys friends? At what point did you guys meet and start any kind of a dialogue, or were you ever friends? Did I just dream? Did I just dream this up out of the crystal blue and put two guys together that didn't even like each other?
We had no choice. Yeah, I can say on the recruiting, James, he immediately was that attention grabber, and he was just always so high enthusiastic. The first time I met him, I was like, man, who is this guy? What are you doing? It was all over the place, but it was all good energy. As we actually got to Mizzou and actually had to work out as a class together and all that stuff, we had no choice but to be friends, because we were out there fending for ourselves for the longest. So yeah, we are definitely friends. I had our long time handshake of James for the longest. Still remember that to this day. We'll text each other and do the high five, and I'll spell his name out with a whole bunch of S's. So we keep it going. Right. And we built a brotherhood for sure.
Who were some other guys from that recruiting class that you guys kind of gravitated to? I know, Marcus Murphy, obviously you talked about him. Was it kind of Texas guys sticking together? I mean, what was kind of the dynamic of that class?
No, it was, it really was. It was more than, that's what I was saying earlier. This is different personalities and stuff. It was just it was hard not to get along with everyone. And then sometimes it was, but I know I already said this, but somehow it just made us closer. I mean, all the goofballs and the different stories, and anywhere from Anthony Gotti to even him and Mitch, they're completely different. And then it's you got some of the receivers, you got Bud and Marcus, and just I don't know, it was a good combo. And the guys, like Henry was saying, you get there, you have to put in the work, and those are probably my favorite memories. Or all the times we had to do the different types of training and stuff, because that's what you go and you play in the game, and it's you have that recorded, most of them, and you can look back and watch some of that, or at least highlights. But then when it comes to all of the training that you do, the lifting, that's 95% of it, the stuff that isn't recorded. And so it's something that it stings, because those times in the locker room, bickering on the field or getting in trouble for whatever else and doing conditioning for punishment. It's just
We were all bought in.
Those are the times it's like, yeah. And I really do. I wish we had that some of those times recorded and just for our memories and just to look back and reminisce, because that's where we really bonded. And I think that's kind of how that I believe transitions over to the football field so much, is whenever you bond like that and you go through struggles, you go through the lowest of lows when you're beat down physically and mentally, and you got to come together to accomplish finishing the sprints or finishing the workout. That transitions over to the game, and that's when you really get to know someone, is when physically and emotionally they're at their lowest. You know what kind of person that they're gonna be, and that's something that I think we all just did so well during that training, that recruiting class. And it wasn't just the guys from Texas; it was everybody.
Yeah.
Did either one of you ever have moments where you're during that freshman year where it's like, I've made the wrong choice. I don't really want to be here. The weather is now 42 degrees and it's October 12th. I mean, was anything like that ever creep in?
Man, it was too late then.
Well,
yeah, way too late.
Okay. So there wasn't, the transfer portal wasn't what it was, I guess.
No, I don't think anybody ever hit the transfer portal. I think the biggest thing for me was I was so
Taylor
far away
Gabbard
from
did.
home. Oh yeah, well, we missed him, but we had the tank. But yeah, I think the main thing was just how far away you were from home, and I just can't jump up and go drive my car home. I think that was about the only thing that kind of got me at times. But by the time we got there, we'd already got to the dorms. We had a guy across the way. You had, of course, he said Gotti down the way. Like you had at least two people that you can gel with, and then everybody else gelled together, and it just. Like our hallway, nobody else came down it but us, because it was just bananas with us. The doors are open. Like we didn't. Every rule that was there to be put in place to keep us quiet, it was not followed. We had the doors open. We just were all always together. So it just helped out a lot, just to see how well we mowed together. You're talking about a bunch of guys that are at least every single one or two of us were either number one or two at our schools that we're coming out of, and we all came together as a unit and just bonded together as a great recruiting class and a great family class. Like it was awesome to see all of us gel together, be selfless, and we made things happen. One thing we wanted to do was win. So I remember us talking about that in our freshman years. Hey, I can't wait till it's our turn to be those guys that everybody's looking to for that leadership. And you could just see how well it gelled for those years we took over to those years after that, to see how it actually played out as well.
And James, you had a church to go to in Columbia, I presume. So you were not wanting to leave, and everything's good. Everything was good for you. No thoughts of going to play. What safety? What was Texas or Oklahoma wanting you to play?
No, all the other ones that weren't quarterback, it was the athlete. So it was either like receiver or defensive end. Is what some of the coaches had told me.
That'd have been nice.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. Everyone thinks, oh, James, so nice. Like, I don't have an aggressive side. I'm like, see, don't people know when you watch movies and stuff, it's like the quiet ones you gotta be weary of? Yeah. Well, there are times where I'm not quiet, but on the field, it's like everyone's like, oh, he's so nice. Anyways, it was fun. I mean, I never thought about transferring. And I don't really mean to sound goody, but just how like my dad and mom had raised me, it's just, man of my word, I keep it, don't second guess your decisions kind of thing. And with a big one like that, I thought about it a lot. And so it never crossed my mind wanting to go somewhere else. And, going into that, I think one thing that helped me as a quarterback and sort of transition into like a leadership position is since I came in January, I actually got to room with Eric Waters. He came in January as well, but it's that 2009 recruiting class with like Matt White, Randy, and then Marvin and LaDamian and Jaleel. I got to mesh with a lot of them in that recruiting class because I was in the dorms with them. And so it's like I got that. And then once our recruiting class came in, or my recruiting class, I got to mesh with them in the summer. And so I thought it was great. I mean, I'd never been afraid of hard work. Obviously, there are times of frustration, or like, man, this is difficult, or like I'm not sure what to do. I got to figure it out. But for the most part, too, and as Henry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't really ever recall anybody talking about regretting their mistake or wishing that they
Yeah.
committed to a different school.
No, we showed up to work. That
That's
was
awesome.
it. Yeah, it was good. Hop in the car. Let's go hit it. For those of that
Yeah.
had cars, yeah.
It seems like times have changed drastically since then, because that's kind of, I just feel like that maybe it's a society thing that you just say, this isn't going well, I don't like this, I've got to leave. And maybe that's just a perception of an older guy. Man, I'm 37, I'm older than you guys, so I'm in the get off my lawn mode, I guess. But it just seems like it's changed a little bit, and guys, the transfer
absolutely.
portal's there, and you can make
Jump
that
right in it.
decision like that. So
Yeah,
I think
schools
that's,
gotta
I mean,
hammer
it's good
down.
and bad. Go ahead. Ladies
Yeah, I said I
first.
think the schools got to hammer down as well with that. I mean, you're just opening the door too much for these kids, and they never ever find a place to actually love the game, enjoy the game, and actually build some relationship that are going to help you out for like the rest of your life. Like me and James, as soon as we hop on the call, it's like day one again, and we're just starting. It just starts back up. These guys that keep hopping and hopping, like eventually, like I don't want no guy that's hopping around. Like when you go to play for these teams that get recruited by these NFL teams, the same thing with them. Something ain't working, this guy's gonna leave. Like I just eventually I don't want that type of guy in my organization, especially when it gets to that type of money as well. Like we don't need you. There's 15 other yous that stayed at the same school and figured it out. We'll go take that guy instead now. And you're starting to see that a lot more too. The big hype guys, one of those guys that are most of the time not making it in the league for that long run. So it's just good to see some kind of correlation from college to NFL and see how it kind of plays out for you when you do all that hopping around.
And that's a good point, because I've really tried to look at it from both sides of, if a guy, like for example, with Clemson and Kelly Bryant, he played, he did great that one season, and then coach went with Trevor Lawrence. And so I really tried to put myself in the shoes in that position. And it's like, it's tough, because if a coach does that, you can't do anything about that. I mean, it's like, you had a great season and then he's going to put this guy over you. And of course, that's not always the situation, but it's like, well, what else are you going to do? But then at the same time, if you do stay and stick through it, you might not get as much playing time as you think, or you might get more. Like, for example, with Tyler Gabbard, when I had all his injuries the next year, he could have essentially played like that full season. But you learn a lot more. You learn about overcoming adversity. You learn a lot more about yourself. And also, you could truly help the team become better and win a huge bowl game or go to a national championship potentially, just by how you behave and what you do on the team. If you don't get the starting spot, or if you get benched, you can still help the team out. There's what goes on behind closed doors, what I was telling you about, all those workouts and the training and the school, all of that has such a huge impact on what happens on the field. And so you just miss out on a lot of opportunities if you do keep going from place to place. And it's all in hopes, of course, to everybody wants to play and then go to the next level. And then stat wise, it's, what is it? Is it like 3% or 9%? I don't remember, of college athletes, collegiate athletes go pro. It's a low percentage, but if you just keep moving around, like Henry said, these other guys have figured it out. They've stuck through it. And that's the kind of guys you want on the team, not someone who's just going to come in because he's a big name or he feels entitled that he needs to play. So he's going to go somewhere where he's almost guaranteed a spot to play and didn't have to go through all the, not just the hard work, but didn't have to go through all of the struggles that everybody else did through training camp, through summer camp, through off season, all of it. So there's definitely some ups and downs to it, but I'm with Henry on that. I just think it's not really the best overall for the kids to be able to transfer so easy and start going right away.
Yeah, that's really well said, guys. From your perspectives, before we kind of put a ribbon on this episode, it's been wonderful getting into this aspect of your guys' careers. A lot of people aren't aware of some of these stories. This is just tremendous. The nicknames, you guys both had nicknames, very marketable nicknames, and this is about 10 years before NIL, name, image, and likeness come into play. We got Henry the Outlaw Josey. Where does that come from? And then James Frank the Tank Franklin. How did Henry? How did this happen for you? Do you remember when you got called the Outlaw? I'm still trying to kind of put it together. Like, the Outlaw Josey Wales, obviously the Clint Eastwood movie.
Yeah.
I guess it's as simple as that. But when did that stick? And did you even like it?
I liked it to a point because my like I said, I was raised by my grandparents, so like I watch old westerns, and I have to go to their house and watch old westerns. So do I know who Clint Eastwood? And like yes, I know a bunch of old western characters, but I don't bring that out to light. So when I did see it, I think the first person who rung it to my ear was my grandma. Like what they're actually calling it was like, oh man, that's semi awesome, I guess. And of course, you see a poster board of it, you're like, oh, okay, well, all right, well, they stick with me, and I'm cool with it. But it wasn't something that like kind of blew my mind away or nothing. It was like, all right, well, that ain't a bad name, I guess. So I'll go with it. So
Yeah, it like doesn't really make sense if you just think about like your game and your speed and like the way you play. Like it doesn't really make sense. It doesn't really have anything to do with that.
Not
Whereas James Frank the Tank, that's coming from how tough he was, and I think that's something. The toughness, it makes sense. James, was that something that you had going into college, or when did that take off?
So it was actually my sophomore when I was playing receiver in high school. And anyways, I caught a little screen, and then I ran over these 3 kids and took their helmets off. I knocked one of them out. And so the guy, his name was, I think it was Trevor, but he was just like, hillbilly, the good dude. He's just like, hey, I'm Frank Tank, man. He's like a tank, Frank Tank. So he kind of got me that in high school. And then obviously you don't come into college, especially no matter how big of a recruit you are, like, hey, you can call me Frank Tank, or whatever. But Matt White actually, so it was early on, like some of the workouts and stuff. I've always enjoyed working out. It's kind of been my headspace to kind of clear everything. And so I like to go decently hard, but I don't like to talk a lot. And so between the weight room and then some stuff on the field, Matt White actually started calling me Tank Frank. That's why I like my Twitter and Instagram. It's Tank Frank. And so a lot of times they call me. A lot of guys just say Frank too. They just say, "What's up, Frank?" kind of thing. And so naturally, and then some of the guys would call me Tank. It was just like Frank Tank. And I didn't know the movie
Old School.
Old School, yeah, yes, sir. I've never seen it before, and so it's funny. And some of the guys that didn't know me, they were like, "Oh, I know what they call you, Frank the Tank," and I'm like, I had no idea what they're talking about for this movie. So I looked up, and I'm just dying laughing. That's not quite where I got the nickname, but and it's just, and everyone has their nicknames, but that's where mine came from. But it's actually a lot of teammates. They either just call me Frank, or it was Tank Frank, more so than Frank the Tank. But it's one of those things too. He's not like, hey, that's my name, call me that or whatever. Talk to yourself third person. But so whatever the guys call me, like Bud Sasser, my middle name is, I have 2, Michael and Ray. And so he always called me Michael. He was like, Michael? Michael Ray? And so it's just depending on the guy and stuff. There's so many of them, but that's where that came from.
Yeah, you and Tom Brady have 2 middle names. So that's Thomas Edward Patrick Brady and James Michael Ray Franklin. I think that there's something to that, and I love it. And it's should be celebrated. Guys, this is a blast. Before we sign off, James, we get a lot of people asking us about your Franklin-made designs, how they can get a hold of you. I see that you do a ton. You've done tons of Mizzou stuff. We got Mizzou people wanting to know how they can get a hold of you, how they can maybe can they commission an original piece? Like, what's the deal?
Yeah. Okay, I didn't have my ads ready to just pop them on the screen. I've got an Etsy page. It's just Franklin Made Designs. And then Instagram is Franklin Made Design. I think it's the Franklin_Made_Designs. And then Facebook's Franklin Made Designs. But yeah, you can order a piece, or you can just send me a message and ask for a custom one. I really want to get into customization. The most popular one, I actually have one I got to send out tomorrow, and I've got 3 more orders of it, is the Rock M. A lot of people really like that one. But I really, anything you can think of, send a picture or talk about it. Some lady just asked if I could do an epoxy table of like a certain design, and so I'm going to do that. And yeah, it's pretty cool.
Oh, it is awesome stuff. And we've had, like I said, a lot of Mizzou fans hitting us up. They may be the ones that found you there to check out the Rock M. That's tremendous. And can't thank you guys enough, man. This is so much fun. Every week we do this, and every week people are like, where is this? Are you guys doing more? Is this happening? And I said, these guys, they give their time to do this. And I think for, not speaking for you guys, but I think it's probably, for me, it's an amazing experience that I was, a young, early 20s guy following your careers, just getting into media at that time. And then, kind of where I've grown, where you guys have grown, where we all have grown of people. And here we are doing this. To me, it's so much fun. And I can't thank you guys enough. It's just it's a gas, man. It's great times.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We've been enjoying it.
Yeah, definitely agree. I'm loving it. Can't wait till next week.
Well, if you were enjoying it up till now, next week we get into the 2012 season, Missouri's first season in the SEC. The game where James Franklin is suffering from an injury. We're going to get into that. He's ready to spill it. We're going to talk about it. And that transition to the SEC where Henry is going through his rehab, and we're setting the scene for better things to come. But 2012 still plays a role. As James mentioned, Tyler Gabbard transfers, and Missouri has to go with Corbin Bergstresser for a hunk of that conference slate there. We're going to get into it. And the greatest college football game that I've ever attended, Missouri, Tennessee, 2012. It's all coming up next week, guys. So we're ready to roll it.
Awesome. We appreciate it.
Looking
Can't
forward
wait.
to it.
Thank you guys so much. We'll catch you next week. It's Mizzou's True Sons. And then there's me. I'm here too. Thank you guys so much. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah, MIZ.
ZOU.
ZOU. Later, guys.